Finally, I am here to educate you regarding makeup, which is an area I've never touched on my channel because it's not my area of expertise. And you've been asking me since the start of my channel, Angela, please do a makeup tutorial. Give us a makeup tutorial, which is a little bit weird because it's never really been the basis of my channel. And it's also not something I'm good at. There are so many amazing makeup artists on this platform that are brilliant, and there is no way that I can give you any sort of insight or information or techniques that would even hold a candle to what they could provide. But I tell you what I can do. I'm a licensed esthetician. My background, my education, my entire career is skincare. I help treat problematic skin and I help maintain people's skin. My knowledge is in skincare, and when I'm not working, I'm still focusing on educating myself in the ways of skincare. So, using certain methods that I have really focused on, my kind of foundation when it comes to skincare is really based in Korean skincare because a lot of it is science-backed. A lot of their techniques, a lot of their products are mandated so heavily that if they don't work, there's no such things as bells and whistles over there or snake oil. If it doesn't work, it is not getting touted, it is not getting sold, it is not getting used, they go under. They only use things that are tried, trusted, true. So with that being said, I'm going to help you get the most even application of your foundation by way of using these methods that I've learned over the years. When it comes to my own makeup, when it comes to my own skincare, when it comes to kind of what you're seeing, my emphasis is actually on skin. You would think that, being goth makeup, it would be on eyes, it would be on lips. I spend the majority of my focus on skin. So how does this apply to goth makeup? So a lot of goths do like to use foundations that are kind of heavy in the pigment department. So they like things that are usually one to several pigments lighter than their own skin color. And in order to do that, you really need to pack it on because you don't want your natural skin to show through because everyone's kind of going for that deathly pallor. But this doesn't have to always apply to that particular style of makeup. There are a lot of goths that maybe like to wear their foundation a little bit lighter in texture or their own skin tone, which is also okay. So I'm going to basically give you the all-round techniques on what I do and what I do educate my clients on how to do their own skin. So it doesn't only work on goths, it works on civilians, but I would say that it works on goths that much better because of how heavy some of our applications can be. Before any makeup application, you want to prep your skin first. Prepping your skin is one of the most important steps because in prepping the skin, what you're going to ensure is a proper, even, smooth application of product because you want healthy skin. The skin should always be the focus, and that's really the technique that I kind of go with. I go with the focus on overall skin health. We want the skin to look like it's glowing from the inside. So that's where we focus. So what does this address when you prep your skin beforehand? So what we're addressing is the hydration of your skin and the texture of your skin. Take your fingers and run it over your face. Go to your forehead, particularly your nose, by your nose, over your nose, in the corners, your chin, and really feel around. You probably will feel things like texture. If you feel things like rough spots, you feel bumps, those are things like sebaceous filaments, those are things like dry patches or dry spots. So we need to fix those first because those things that you feel, if you apply your makeup straight to that, that's what it's going to stick to and that's what you're going to see. We don't want that level of texture. We want nothing. All that being said, we're going to start with our first step, and our first step is going to seem like it's starting at the very end, but it's probably one of the most important steps. So whereas we prep our skin prior to makeup, and that's going to address things like texture and hydration, this step, the way you wash your face, is going to address your overall skin health. And it's how well are you washing your makeup off of your face in the first place. Because things like that can affect your skin health by way of pH. It can affect things like acne and any kind of breakouts that you might be having intermittently. So let's talk about how are you washing the makeup off of your face. So if you're one of those people where you think that you do a bang up job washing your makeup off your face at night and then you go to bed and you wake up and you look at your pillowcase and it looked like somebody went and cleaned the sink with it. It's because you're not washing your makeup properly. So that's what leads us to the non-negotiable step. Always start with the oil cleanse. Double cleansing, super important if you're wearing makeup. But why? So both of these steps deal with different parts of the cleanse. This right here, your oil cleanse. Now this is the one that I use. It's Annual Heartleaf. You do not have to use this one, whichever ones you feel work best for you. This one is my favorite. The reason that we need the oil cleanse is because when you go in with the oil cleanse, what's going to end up happening is that you're breaking up all of that surface gunk. You're dealing with all of the superficial things that, say for example, if you went straight in with your regular cleanse, you're not going to hit skin, because this is going to be working its tail off just to get through all of that stuff, to get through to your skin, but it's not going to break it up. The oil is what breaks it up. Water-based, oil-based. So we start with our oil and with the water. So by going in with the oil base, what you're doing is you're going to pump. Give about 2-3 pumps in the hand, and don't add water yet. So sometimes it's not always about the product, it's about the technique, it's how you apply it, and that is something that applies to this. So as you're applying it, you want to go backwards, forwards, circular motions, backwards, forwards. Now why are we going in both directions? Because your pores don't grow straight. Everybody thinks when they look at the diagram of a pore, and the diagram kind of messes with our heads a little bit, but your pores aren't all like this. It's not perfect little rows. They're growing in every which direction. So we got to get into every single pore. So in order to really clean your pores, clear your pores of all the debris that you've packed in by way of makeup, superficial dirt, sebum, all of those things along the way, we're going to go in with the oil cleanse. Circular motions, backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. Go in with the palms a little bit on the forehead. Get it up to the hairline. So many people instinctively don't get around their hairlines because they don't want to get their hair wet. When it doesn't really matter, it's just sort of an instinctive thing. Get up by that hairline, that's where it accumulates. If you do the tissue test after you've washed your face and go around by your hairline and by your ears, I guarantee you there's going to be junk. So that being said, after you feel you've really gone in, focus on the eyes, break up all of that mascara. I will recommend a product that is an oil cleanse that's specifically for mascara. It comes in a mascara wand and it gets the mascara off. I'm not using it in this. I've never actually used it before, but if you're interested, I will put the link in the description. It's really cool and I kind of want to try it. Getting back to our oil cleanse. Once you feel that things are really broken up nicely, this is when you add the water. Water is going to emulsify and really triple the action. So you're really going to get in there, get in with the water, get it good and emulsified, backwards, forwards, and then rinse. When you think you've rinsed too much, you have not rinsed enough. There have been so many times that I thought that I've rinsed perfectly fine, and then I've gotten into bed and touched right here and it was oily, even though I double cleansed. So you cannot rinse too much, so make sure you rinse it off properly. Now that your face is clear of makeup and all that superficial gunk, you can go in with your water cleanse. So what the water cleanse is going to do, especially with this one in particular, now we're able to impart all the ingredients that our water cleanse has to offer. Maybe it has salicylic acid, this one has green tea, which is very calming, but it also has things like antioxidants and it has very calming properties. So when you go in with this, now that our face is free of all of that makeup crap and all the other things that were clogging our pores, this can really get in those pores and further ensure things like we're not going to get things such as breakouts. So that's why the double cleanse is so important. One can't work without the other, especially if you're wearing makeup. Let's talk about your nose. Do you ever look at your nose and it kind of look like these little dots sticking out, or that feels kind of bumpy? Maybe it looks like little hairs. Those are called sebaceous filaments, and in order to handle those, you could either exfoliate or we can take it one step further. And I know a lot of people are very anti these. I got mine from CVS, and they're deep pore cleansing strips. These are the charcoal ones. And some people have issues with using them. They say they don't work properly. But you want to exfoliate your nose ever so gently. Just use your fingertips and really rub water into it to just kind of work that dead skin off before you get those on, because you don't want it to be too harsh. So make sure your nose is good and damp, and then when you get your pore strip on, you want to pat a little bit of water, not too much, on top of it, and make sure you leave it on long enough to where it feels like concrete. You want it to be good and stiff, so when you pull it off, it takes everything out. And that'll take all of your sebaceous filaments out, as well as any blackheads, but it's usually just sebaceous filaments. If you're unfamiliar with what a sebaceous filament is, a sebaceous filament isn't actually a blackhead. A lot of people get those confused, but what it is, it's kind of a long hair-like tube that goes to the surface of the pore, and it carries oil to the surface to keep your skin hydrated. But in some people, it just grows and grows, and it genuinely looks like hairs sticking out of the face. So sometimes you got to trim them babies down. If you are side-eyeing these pore strips and like I am not about that life, we have a plan B. Get yourself a good baby toothbrush, and it's the one with the super soft bristles that aren't too abrasive. And you want to go in with, I would say, maybe a jojoba oil, squalene oil is good, and then really just give it a good scrub. Get in the corners, circular motions, always circular motions, backwards, forwards, and get your whole nose area. And then gently rinse it off. Toner pads are a very big first step in skin prep. It's probably one of the ones that are never ever skipped. A lot of people are very iffy on which toner pads they should be using, and I'm gonna give you some options, but if you're not about using toner pads, I'm gonna show you what I use because I don't actually use them myself. So this is what I use. So the first thing I do is I use the Isntree ultra low molecular hyaluronic acid toner. I'm still very tempted by the toner pads. Some of them come with things such as salicylic acid, which is a really good exfoliator because, as I said, exfoliation is a very important step. But at the moment, what I'm liking is the hyaluronic acid. I'm using a lot of hyaluronic acids, which can scare people because it's using the word acid, but in this case, it holds 1,000 times its weight in water, so it's something that's very hydrating. But there's a method that I use to its application that really gets it in 10 times harder. So I'm going to teach you exactly how to do that. I have my cotton rounds, and I will wet 2 cotton rounds, and I immediately slap them on my forehead. First thing I do. And I'll leave them there for like a minute or so, but after they've been there for a minute or so, I might rehydrate them with a little bit more. Sweeping motions, circular. Sweeping, circular, but you don't want to press too hard. And you might kind of re-wet these a couple of times and really let it hydrate and get in. After your skin feels good and hydrated, after you've done your toner pads, what I like to do is I go in with my Mixsoon Glacier Water Hyaluronic Serum. So this is another hyaluronic that I'm adding. So this is something called layering. I do layer products of the same active ingredient because it gives you a really solid result. If you really want to reap all the benefits from that specific product, whereas me, I want that plumping hydration, I layer. By way of focusing on hydration with hyaluronic acid, particularly with layering the product, we're really going to focus on plumping that skin and really making sure that it's hydrated. But what we're also going to do is focus on the method of application. And the method of application is also going to ensure texture because I'm going to show you how to really buff this in and really drive it home. So always medium pressure. You don't want to go too foofy, but you also don't want to go too hard. On the forehead, this is an important part. This is what's really going to give you that buffed forehead look. You want to go palms, just like this. And you want to give even pressure. You want to make sure that you feel it. This should always feel good. If something hurts, not okay. So we apply to the forehead, circle, circle, really buff that in, medium pressure. It should really feel like a massage. So after your hyaluronic acid toner, after your hyaluronic acid serum, I go in with the Mixsoon Centella Toner. However, this step can be swapped out with water. Very important. But the water is a very important step, either this or the water, and I'm going to show you why. Here's where it gets interesting. So whether you're applying your water-based toner or simply water to your face after you've applied both your hyaluronic acids, what you're going to find is that suddenly your skin feels very slippery. And the reason that that's happening is because the hyaluronic acid is doing what hyaluronic acid does. Hyaluronic acid, not only does it exist in almost every cell in our body, but it holds 1,000 times its weight in water. So now that we've applied it to our face and suddenly you're applying water to it, you're basically activating it. You're causing it to absorb all of that water. But not only that, by way of massaging it with the water or the toner, by massaging it into your skin, what you're doing is you're pushing all of that hydration through. If it hurts, if you're applying friction, you're not using enough water. You don't want your hands too wet, but you also don't want them to be too dry. You want them kind of dampened. Just by touching your face, you can feel if it's too little or if it's too much, so you can adjust the water or the toner accordingly. But once you touch your hands to your face, really massage it in. Do it in a way that feels comfortable to you. Do it in upward motions always, never pull down, but always upward motions. Go in with your knuckles, go into your jaw, really work the tension out of your jaw, go to your neck, kind of give yourself one of these. This process provides 2 benefits. One of the benefits is that you're pushing that hydration through to the dermal layer, so you're really focusing on hydrating your skin. But secondly, the fact that you're massaging your skin and creating that little bit of friction, what you're also doing is you're buffing out your skin and really exfoliating it and getting all of that dead skin prior to actually applying your makeup, which in 2 ways is going to help apply a really even application because you're focusing on hydrating, but you're also getting off all of that dead surface skin. This might seem a little bit redundant, but bear with me. We're trying to look inhuman and poreless. So I go in with my Turtur Milk Skin Toner, And it's also, everything, if you've noticed, is all water-based. And the reason I like things that are water-based is because I prefer water as a carrier. When things are cream-based, I find that they sit on top of the skin, and when things are water-based, they're more readily absorbed. So everything that I apply as far as hydration is concerned, water-based. So when I go in with this, remember I said I was going to seem a little bit redundant? I go back in with either my Mixoon or a little bit of water, and then I massage this through, because I don't want it to sit too thick or too heavy on the skin, because I would say out of all of these products, the watery products that I've used, the milky one is a little bit thicker. So just before I apply my foundation, I use the D'Alba UV Essence Waterful Tone Up Pink Correcting Broad Spectrum FBF Sunscreen. So this, I'm going to put this on my skin over my makeup actually. And I want you to see what happens. If you like luminous skin, which is basically what I'm all about, I want you to look at how ridiculous, okay, what have I done? I'm gonna just blend that around there. What did I do? Probably should have done this. So as you really work it in, you need to really work it into the skin, because it can look really intimidating when you first put it on, because it goes on almost like clown makeup and you think that that's what it looks like. It doesn't. You work it in, it disappears, and then suddenly you become a huge glowing disco ball, which is great because it's sitting under the makeup. So as you can see, even over my makeup, it is highly luminous stuff, but I assure you that if you apply it to normal clean skin as a sunscreen with your makeup over it, it's still going to be very luminous, but not nearly so eye-catchingly luminous. I prefer a very luminous look because I always associate that luminous look with skin health. If anything that reflects light is just, it naturally looks a lot healthier. So when it comes to foundation, I use Tier Cushion Foundation, and this color is 17C Porcelain, but if you really want to go for a super pale shade, let's say you're going for a night out, 10C is a good one. But when it comes to Tier, they're incredibly inclusive when it comes to shades, so I would definitely check them out. The reason that I like cushion foundations is because of the way that you can control the amount that's used, but the method of application is also very, very effective. And it uses a method, I believe this is an actual term, they call it pour packing. As long as you're doing your makeup this way and you're washing it off properly after, it's perfectly fine, but you also have to pay attention to proper sanitization. So the thing about pour packing is, again, pores don't all grow in one direction. They kind of go this way, that way, every other way. So when you apply your foundation, oftentimes you find that you have these little white dots, because that's where the foundation is settled. So by way of pour packing, what you're doing is you're really patting that in. Now, you don't necessarily have to use a cushion foundation for this if you don't want to, but if you get a good sponge or you get, say, a beauty blender, you can use the same method of application. So I'm going to show you how, and I'm also going to show you how to use a cushion foundation and why I kind of feel that, in my opinion, a bit superior. What I've noticed with people using cushion foundations is they press really hard, and when you look at it, it doesn't really look like there was very much on there. However, once you pat it down, you blot it and realize, oh, I really did get quite a lot on there. So this is something that you need to do. Dab it in the sponge, don't dab it in too hard, and then you want to dab off the excess. You always want to operate under a less is more philosophy, because you could always go in and add more later, but always start with the bare minimum first and then layer. So normally when people apply this, they bang it in there really hard, don't blot it, put it on, and they're like, oh my god, this stuff is so cakey. No, it's not. It's not cakey, I promise you. So see where I blotted this off? So this is how we're going to apply. Really patting in. And when you look in the mirror as you're applying, you can actually see it going into the pores. But tap. Always tap. The funny thing about my skin right now, you see the contrast? I went to a water park in Connecticut and we spent the whole day, like our whole group went. And when we went there, I really went crazy with applying the sunscreen. Really applying it on my face and on my body, but I was going into the water, but not really getting my face wet. So even though I was reapplying the sunscreen on my body, the water was kind of washing the sunscreen off my body, but not really my face. So my body, I ended up, I don't know if you could see my tan line, I ended up getting tan. So now my face and my body no longer match. It happens. So as we go in, we're really going to pat this down. So the level of application that I'm doing right now is not my usual day wear look. My usual day look is a lot lighter than this. I actually use a tinted sunscreen. This is more for when I'm going out in the evenings, going to an event or something like that. As you can see, I'm just sitting here tapping my life away. Tap, 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 tap. What I find really useful about this method is as you're tapping the product into your skin and applying more where need be, but you're really using the whole less is more mentality. What ends up happening is as the product leaves the sponge and it's now all imparted into your pores and onto your skin, you're kind of left with an empty sponge, and now you're just blotting it as you go. So you're packing it in and blotting at the same time and blotting off that excess. And so it's more even, but it's not cakey. So let's talk about powdering your face. If we were going to go with the full Korean method, we would stay away from the powder. However, the only ways that powder is used within the Korean technique is to powder over specific areas only where concealer was applied. So if you applied a concealer here, 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 that is where you're going to apply your powder. However, you will never apply your powder over here, because these are the areas, like the apples of the cheeks, are the areas that you really want to focus on remaining like bright and luminous and shiny. So if you are particularly oily and you do require a powder, this is a step that you cannot miss. Get yourself a very good setting spray. And because you're going to be applying a powder over an oil base, which is your makeup, you don't want the two to come into contact with each other. And I'll explain why in a second. So firstly, you want to apply a really even mist of your setting spray over your foundation prior to adding your powder. So once that sets, once it dries really well, then apply your powder with a brush. So the reason that we don't do that is because when the oil mixes with the powder, there's a chemical reaction that takes place that can cause things like pilling, streaking, caking. Because those two don't mix, they come together and just kind of become granules on your face, which is kind of counterintuitive to the smooth, vampiric, kind of poreless complexion that we're currently going for. So always remember that before you apply your powder, you want to apply your setting spray first. And then you can apply your setting spray over the powder. A few things that you can do in between and a few products of note, you want to consider a good peel. I like to use the Dr. Dennis Gross Alpha Beta Peel Pads. I've been using these for years, but not all peels are created equal. You have to find the one that's best for you. If you want to start with something that's going to be a lot more gentle, start with the enzyme, but as for myself, these are the ones that I use. I use them in between and I absolutely love them. Whenever I feel a breakout coming on, I always go for these. It's a two-step process. This is your glycolic peel, and then this is your neutralizer that contains retinol. But not only does this deal with textural issues, it also deals with issues like hyperpigmentation, which is essentially fighting the signs of photoaging. So if you have freckles, any kind of dark spots, uneven skin tones, this stuff right here. A product I really wanted to make mention of is one that I genuinely, when I saw the ads for it, I thought it was just some crappy bells and whistles thing that didn't really do much at all. But I was really surprised when my sister got it. I borrowed it from her and now I'm hooked. I buy them constantly. So I suffer from migraines a lot. And when I get migraines, unfortunately, I am bound to my bed, not really capable of doing much anything other than sleep, and with a heating pad on my head, which is very dehydrating because I have the heating pad on my head, which makes my skin dry as it is, and I'm not really able to drink much water because I'm not able to open my eyes or do much of anything. So when that happens and I come out of a migraine episode, my skin is horribly dry. So I do the kind of hydration method that you saw, but then I put this over it. So it looks like one of those clear gel masks, you know, the ones that you peel off. And the way it looked is it just looked like a regular clear gel mask, and I thought it was really silly, but it's a night mask, you sleep in it. So what I do is I put this on at night, and it's not in any way uncomfortable, which was surprising to me. I really thought that it was going to feel uncomfortable and weird, but you don't even feel it. That's the crazy part, and it's a lot thinner than you think, and you can just kind of rub it off. Let me tell you, the next day when I take this thing off, my skin is glowing. It is luminous. It is incredibly hydrating. So this is something, after I've gone through like one of my horrifying 2-day migraines, I go for this and immediately my skin is taken care of. Prior to that, it was like sandpaper. after a headache. But this is one that is now added to my list of holy grails. I will never be without this. It's Medicube Collagen Night Wrapping Mask. One final thing that I like to add, but it's conditional whether or not it's a day look or we're going out to like a club night or something like that, where I usually would have applied a setting spray. But if it's a day look where I'm wearing just the tone up and tinted sunscreen, I go in with my Revectin Lotus Toner. And this is something that I always use at the end of a routine anyway because it's very calming and very hydrating. But I have used that over powder as well, and it doesn't in any way make the makeup separate. It actually makes it look a lot more hydrated, so it's one thing that will work over that. So that's it. I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope that this was helpful. As always, I'm going to put all the products in the description as well as a coupon code because I am a YesStyle affiliate, which is probably one of the most exciting things for me, to be able to work in skincare and also be able to work with like a company that has all the products that I use. So it's, I need more storage in my house. But again, I hope that was helpful. Until next time, thank you for watching. Bye.